First, you want to start by securing your thread to the hook, and then wrapping your thread back to the bend of the hook. But instead of clipping off the tag end, we're going to tie in that tag end so it's right on top of the shank of the hook. Next, you want to select 2 pieces of microfibet. This is going to be our mayfly tail. The length of the tail is roughly the length of the shank of the hook. Secure that in at the bend of the hook, trying to keep the microfibets on top of the shank of the hook as best you can together. Wrap them back to the bend of the hook. Now take your tag end and bring it up in between the microfibets. That should split the tail. A couple security wraps, and once it's secure, trim off the excess. The body of the mayfly is going to be made out of a turkey biot. Be sure your thread is halfway up the length of the shank. Trim off the very tip of the biot, and then secure the biot in as best you can on top of the shank of the hook, wrapping it all the way back to the bend of the hook. Once it's there, bring your thread back up to 3/4 of the way up the shank of the hook. Now with our hackle pliers, we're going to grab on to the turkey biot and then begin wrapping it around the shank of the hook to create a nice ribbed body. Once you've wrapped your body 3/4 of the way up the shank, secure it down with your thread. And once it's secure, trim off the excess turkey biot. Once the turkey biot is trimmed off, a few security wraps will help keep everything together. Next is going to be our wing. The wing is going to be made out of duck quill. Snip off just a little bit of duck quill, and the width of the wing is roughly the width in between the gap of the hook. Now take the duck quill and place it on top of the shank of the hook where we want to tie in the wing. Secure it down very carefully. Once it's secure on top of the shank of the hook, bring the duck quill up, make a few wraps behind the duck quill, and then go around it as if we're going to make a parachute out of it. But only go around it maybe 2 times. You want to be careful on the tension of your line because we don't want to cut through the duck quill. When that's secure, wrap your thread to just shy of the eye of the hook. Now we're going to take the dry fly hackle, tie it in front of the wing, and then a couple times behind. Next is our dubbing. On this particular fly, a small amount of dubbing will go a long way. So keep it sparse. And once we have that dubbed on there nice and tight, begin to wrap it around the back of the wing and then in front of the wing, bringing it up to just behind the eye. Now we're going to take our hackle and wrap it about 3 times in back of the wing and then 3 times in front. Once we've wrapped it, secure it down and snip off the excess. Now we can whip finish. Once you're whip finished, snip off the excess thread. Now it's time to trim the wing of the mayfly. The wing of the mayfly is roughly the length of the body. Start the first cut so that the angle faces the bend of the hook. Then trim the tip at about a 60-degree angle and then trim the very top point off. You should end up with a nice looking wing. The very last thing we're going to do is trim off the very bottom hackle pieces so that this fly can sit as flush as we can to the water. And we have ourselves the upwing mayfly.